It was the day Julian, her old flame, returned to the country. It was also our 3rd wedding anniversary, a fact that seemed to have slipped my wife's mind entirely. She had ditched our plans to go and comfort him, leaving me in the hollow silence of our oversized house. At the same time, my grandfather, the man who had raised me, was lying in a hospital bed, critically ill. I was $20,000 short on the medical bills that could save his life, a sum that felt both impossibly large and pitifully small. But Amelia was a world away, literally and figuratively, traveling with Julian and spending sums that could have solved my problems 100 times over. When I had tried to ask for my own debit card back, the one she had insisted on holding for safekeeping, she had scoffed. "Done playing the part, Ethan? That's not a very original excuse to move assets." Her words were like ice. We missed the best window for his treatment, and a few days later, the hospital called with the news I had been dreading. My grandfather was gone. I took our wedding photo from its silver frame, cut it cleanly in half, and mailed my piece to her along with the divorce papers. To hell with her damn fortune. Anyone who wanted it was welcome to it. The phone had rung earlier that week, on the evening of our anniversary. "Honey, come home soon," I had said, trying to keep my voice light. "I made a bunch of your favorites." Before I could finish, Amelia's voice, calm and measured, cut me off. "Julian is back in the country today. Mr. Cole asked me to pick him up." A heavy silence filled the space on my end of the line. Just hearing that name was enough to make me feel small, insignificant. As if sensing my reaction, Amelia's tone softened, a disarmingly frank quality to her voice. "I'm telling you beforehand precisely so you don't overthink it. Oh, and I sent you a gift. It should have arrived, so make sure you look for it." Hanging up, I went downstairs to the lobby and found the package. I unwrapped it to reveal an expensive-looking men's skincare set. Holding the sleek bottles in my hands, my mood lifted slightly. It felt like a small sign, a gesture that maybe she did still care about me after all. But as I examined the box more closely, I noticed a small flaw in the packaging, a slight tear near the corner. It was nothing major, but on a luxury item, it stood out. The next day, I took it to the department store to ask about an exchange. The sales associate looked at the box, and then back at me, her expression polite but firm. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't offer exchanges or returns on our sample products for cosmetic defects." I froze, the bottle feeling suddenly cold in my hand. "Sample?" I repeated. "Yes," she confirmed. "This is a promotional gift that comes with a purchase." I stood there on the polished floor of the department store, the so-called gift in my hand, a wave of cold realization washing over me. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from my father-in-law. "Ethan, son, I don't mean to rush you two, but you need to get a move on with having kids." Attached to the text was a picture. Amelia and Julian on a yacht, the sun glinting off the water behind them. They were gazing into each other's eyes, their fingers intertwined. My father-in-law was always sending messages like that. He'd never approved of my humble background and made no secret of his disappointment. I was used to it. What made my breath catch in my throat was what I saw on the table next to Julian. I zoomed in on the photo, my heart pounding. There on the sofa beside him sat the full-sized retail version of the skincare set. And it wasn't just the skincare. There were at least a dozen shopping bags from other luxury brands piled around him. My hands started to tremble, as a bottomless, chilling despair washed over me. Amelia hadn't just bought him a gift. She had bought him a mountain of gifts, and the free sample that came along with them was what she had sent to me, her husband, on our anniversary. I wondered then what our marriage certificate, tucked away in a drawer at home, even meant. As I walked toward the mall's exit, a blast of cold wind swept through the automatic glass doors. Fall was here. The weather had turned cold. That evening I was eating alone at the dinner table when the phone rang. Julian's magnetic, gentle voice came through the line. "Oh, Amelia, don't interrupt me while I'm talking to Ethan." His voice was playful, the ends of his words lilting upwards with a teasing provocation I could feel even over the phone. "Ethan, my man, how have you been?" "I'm fine," I said, my voice flat. "Amelia picked me up right after work today. But please don't get the wrong idea," he continued, his cheerful tone now tinged with a hint of performative regret. "I would never get in the way of your relationship. As long as she's happy, that's all that matters. If Amelia's happy, I can finally let go." Realizing his supposed slip, he quickly corrected himself. Sorry, I'm just rambling. Ethan, don't mind me." I sighed silently. She's not happy, I thought. She thinks about you constantly. But out loud, I forced a smile into my voice. "No problem. We're doing great. Welcome back." Suddenly, Amelia snatched the phone. Her voice was stern. "Ethan, don't give Julian a hard time. He's a simple person. He doesn't mean any harm." I was stunned. "I wasn't giving him a hard time." "I don't want you using your little tricks on him," she snapped. "Besides, we're married. He's no threat to you." I was speechless, not knowing whether to be angry or to try and argue. It felt hopeless. They always say the one who falls in love first is always the prisoner. Everyone told me I'd hit the jackpot marrying Amelia Vance. I knew, though, that I could never compare to Julian. He was the polished son of a prominent family, the man who had been there for Amelia when she was at her lowest and had nothing. If Julian's family hadn't looked down on her for being a poor girl with no connections, they would have been married years ago. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. After they broke up, Amelia's company took off, and she soon joined the ranks of the city's elite. Unaware of any of this history, I fell for the charismatic, driven woman she was. I pursued her relentlessly for 3 years, giving it everything I had, and eventually, she agreed to marry me. After the wedding, at her request, I became a stay-at-home husband. She said that as a married couple, we should be completely open with each other. As part of that openness, she took my debit card and gave me a supplementary card for her account. "Honey, spend whatever you want from this. It's our money," she'd said. Getting that card was a sweet moment for me, not because of the unlimited spending, but because of the sense of security and partnership I thought she was giving me. Gradually, however, I discovered how inconvenient it was. The card couldn't be used for cash withdrawals, only for purchases. I couldn't even send my grandfather a little money for his living expenses without a major production. Every time I asked Amelia for cash, she had a perfect excuse to refuse. Once, when I suggested I just take my own debit card back, she became furious. "Ethan, is it that you don't trust me? You don't even have that much money in your account. Do you really think I care about such a small amount? If you want it, take it. I just can't believe you'd be so suspicious of me." Seeing how genuinely angry she was, I dropped the idea. From then on, I dutifully played the role she had assigned me. But beneath the glamorous exterior of being Mr. Vance, my spirit was in tatters. My father-in-law was desperate for a grandchild, but I could never tell him the truth, that after our wedding night, Amelia hadn't touched me again. It was several days before Amelia came home again. I greeted her with a practiced smile, but she sat down on the sofa, her expression as cold as stone. Ethan, I never realized you were such a petty, small-minded man. I was stunned, looking at her in confusion. Julian told me everything, she said, her voice rising. You humiliated him on the phone. Why would you do that? I didn't, I protested. And now you're lying. She shot to her feet, her eyes like ice. Julian was my first love. You know that. You have me now, so why do you still have to give him a hard time? What did he ever do to you to deserve that kind of humiliation? I was trembling with anger, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. Days of pent-up frustration and hurt finally erupted. Then what did I do wrong, Amelia? You spent our anniversary with him, you sent me the free sample from his gift, and now you come home and accuse me based on his side of the story. My eyes grew red as the resentment poured out. Amelia, who is humiliating who here? I'm from a poor family and I haven't seen much of the world, but that doesn't mean you can insult me with someone else's leftovers. My heart felt like it was seizing up in my chest, but I managed a bitter smile as I looked her up and down. Then again, you were something Julian didn't want back then, so why should I care about a skincare sample? The words were barely out of my mouth before her hands were wrapped tightly around my neck. Ethan, watch your mouth, she hissed, her face inches from mine. Julian and I had to separate, but I'm more than good enough for you. Don't be so ungrateful. You're Mr. Vance now, but that can change at any time. I struggled to breathe, my hands instinctively clawing at hers. A cold smile played on her lips, the tenderness I once saw in her eyes completely gone. Let me make this clear. Julian is back, and I'll be spending most of my time with him from now on. You'd better just stay home and behave. If I find out you're causing trouble for him again, don't expect me to honor our marriage vows. She threw me off, and I stumbled back. She pulled the supplementary card from my wallet. I'm confiscating this for now. When you've thought it over and you're ready to apologize to Julian, I'll give it back once I'm satisfied. That card was my entire lifeline. Without it, I couldn't survive. I lunged for it. You said this was our joint property! Amelia shoved me hard, and I fell to the floor. She stood over me, her contempt undisguised. Julian was right. You're only after my money. In that case, I definitely can't let you have it. What if you secretly transferred assets behind my back? I'd be at a huge loss. The prenup we signed was very clear, Ethan. The Vance family money has nothing to do with you. You can spend the next few days at home thinking about what you've done. The front door slammed shut, leaving me in the wreckage of our living room. I lay on the floor as waves of pain, both physical and emotional, washed over me in a slow, agonizing torture. It was only then that I remembered. She really had given me a document to sign before the wedding. At the time, I was so overcome with the joy of marrying her that I just signed it in a daze, without even reading the contents. The stay-at-home husband, the no-secrets policy, the joint property. It was all a lie. It was a web of lies Amelia had spun to strip me of my last bit of independence. Our marriage was a cage, and I had walked right into it. My phone rang. It was the hospital. My grandfather's condition had taken a turn for the worse. When I got to the hospital, he was lying in bed, his breathing shallow and labored. Each beep of the heart monitor felt like a physical blow to my chest. His health had been poor for the last year, a result, the doctor said, of years of malnutrition and overwork. My grandfather raised me. I had vivid memories of him carrying me in his arms while hauling a heavy bag full of collected bottles on his back, just to get by. I leaned over the bed, holding his frail hand, my phone pressed to my other ear. My voice was choked with desperation. Amelia, I'm begging you. We've been married for 3 years. I'm not asking for anything else. Just give me my debit card back. My grandfather. He's not going to make it. I could hear flirtatious laughter in the background on her end. It seemed she was ready to burn this bridge for good. Are you kidding me? This time it's your grandfather. Who will it be next time, Ethan? The agreement is crystal clear. The Vance family money has nothing to do with you. Not a single cent. The doctor stood by the bed, his expression grim. The patient's condition is critical. If we don't operate soon, he might not last the week. I panicked. I managed to scrape together $10,000 from old savings she didn't know about, but I was still $10,000 short. Outside the hospital, rain was pouring down in sheets. I stood under an awning and made one last, desperate call. Amelia, I don't want anything else. I won't compete with Julian. I'll apologize to him. You two can be together whatever you want. I shouldn't have argued with you. It was all my fault. Please, I'm begging you. Just give me $10,000. I'm just $10,000 short. Amelia's voice was like ice. Ethan, have you always been this much of a gold digger? Do you have any idea what your food, your housing? A nurse ran down the stairs and grabbed my arm. Mr. Miller, I'm so sorry. Your relative missed the optimal window for emergency treatment. My phone slipped from my hand, the screen cracking as it hit the wet pavement. But the crack couldn't stop the flood of push notifications that lit up the broken screen. First-class flight tickets, $15,000 a jewelry purchase, $150,000. Couture spending, $450,000. So while she was telling me to reflect on my behavior, she was quietly taking her old flame on a trip around the world. Anyone could spend her money, it seemed. Anyone but me, for the $10,000 I needed to save a life. The phone rang again. She must have called back. Hello? Ethan, I can't believe you're so manipulative you'd hire someone to act this out for you. I stumbled into the emergency room and saw the white sheet covering the man who had been my entire world. My heart died with him. The phone rang again. I answered mechanically. Ethan, who gave you the nerve to hang up on me? You do that again, and I swear I'll divorce you. Amelia had finally said it. I guessed she'd been wanting a divorce for a long time. Today was just the trigger she needed to finally get rid of me. Fine, I said. I agree. What did you say? She hadn't expected me to agree so quickly. Her voice was laced with disbelief. I said I agree to a divorce. It was the first time I had ever spoken to her without a trace of emotion, without any lingering illusions about our shattered marriage. Ethan, what kind of trick are you trying to pull now? She clearly didn't believe me. After a pause, she seemed to have a realization. You're just playing the victim to get sympathy again, aren't you? Let me tell you, even if we divorce, you're not getting a single penny from me. The line went dead. I let out a bitter laugh. She really thought everyone was like her, that life was just a series of cold calculations. I looked at the wedding ring on my finger. Now it just seemed to be mocking me, mocking my absurd, one-sided devotion. I pulled it off. It meant nothing to me anymore. I got the death certificate and had my grandfather's body cremated. And just like that, there was one less person in the world who loved me. I took my grandfather's ashes back to my hometown. The old house, long unoccupied, had a musty smell that clung to the air. As I went through his belongings, I found nothing but a few patched-up old jackets and worn-out tools. The tears I had been holding back finally came, and I hugged the old clothes and sobbed, a deep, gut-wrenching grief shaking my whole body. Guilt wasn't a strong enough word for what I felt. If I hadn't thrown everything away for love, if I hadn't believed Amelia's lies, at least I would have had the money to save my grandfather. I hated myself for it, and I hated her. After cleaning the house thoroughly, I found a yellowed comic book in an old wooden box. It had been read so many times that the pages were wrinkled and soft to the touch. I tried to remember. I'd seen this comic book before. My grandfather used to read it to me when I was little, but the memories were hazy. I flipped to the first page. There, in a crooked, childish hand, written in pencil but still legible, were the words, Amelia Vance. This was her book? Why did my grandfather have it? I was puzzled, but I quickly put it out of my mind, dismissing it as a strange coincidence. I put the comic book in my bag, buried my grandfather's ashes on the hill behind the house, and left. When I returned to the house I had shared with Amelia, the huge space felt empty and cold, lacking any sign of life. I took out our wedding photo. In it, I was beaming, my smile wide and genuine. Amelia had a slight smile on her lips, but her eyes weren't smiling at all. I hadn't noticed it then, blinded by love, but looking at it now, I could see there was no love in her eyes when she looked at me. All this time, I was just a tool for her to heal after Julian had hurt her. I was just the one who groveled hard enough that she tossed me a loveless marriage as a reward. How pathetic. I closed my eyes and slowly tore the photo in two. A single tear fell, a final tribute to my dead love. I put the pieces in a plastic bag and sent them along with the ring and the signed divorce papers to her office via courier. I packed my few belongings and left the home I had lived in for 3 years. As the door clicked shut behind me, I looked back one last time. A final goodbye to my past. I went back to the little house in my hometown. It was my last refuge. I figured Amelia would sign the divorce papers without a second thought. After all, I wasn't asking for anything that belonged to the Vance family, only for my own bank card back. And she could finally be with Julian out in the open. A few days later, I was woken up by frantic knocking at the door. I opened it to find an furious-looking Amelia with a nervous Julian in tow. I never thought she'd find me here. In all the time we'd known each other, this was the first time she'd deigned to visit such a run-down little village. Before I could speak, Amelia grabbed my wrist. You live here? Yeah, this is where I grew up. Can't compare to your mansion, Ms. Vance. That's not what I'm talking about. Her brow was furrowed, her tone urgent. I mean, why didn't you ever tell me you lived here? I did, I said flatly. You just never wanted to come with me. I had wanted to bring her here before, to show her where I grew up and share my memories. But she must have been disgusted by the idea, because she always said she was too busy. Eventually, I stopped asking. A flicker of embarrassment crossed her face before she continued. Is there a river to the south? And a row of apple trees? Amelia, Julian cut her off, taking her arm. Let's stick to the matter at hand. There are so many bugs here. I think I'm having an allergic reaction. I shot him a dirty look. If you're afraid of bugs, Mr. Cole, you can wait in the car. This place is run down and full of them. We might even get some wild dogs or coyotes later. You're so delicate, I wouldn't want you to get scared. Since she thought I was deliberately giving her precious old flame a hard time, I figured I might as well live up to the accusation. I let my disgust for him show plainly on my face. Sure enough, Julian's face went pale, and he hid behind Amelia. Amelia patted his hand reassuringly. He's just trying to scare you. There aren't any coyotes here. Then she turned to me with a frown. Why would you scare Julian like that? He's sensitive. You don't have to be so cruel. I scoffed. Amelia, in what capacity are you talking to me right now? We're not even divorced yet, and you're brazenly showing up at my house with your homewrecker to lecture me. Don't you think that's a little ridiculous? She seemed to latch on to a loophole in my words. So does that mean you don't want a divorce? Of course I do. Since you and Julian are so inseparable, I might as well do you both a favor. Sign the papers, and we'll go straight to the courthouse. Seeing my resolve, Amelia, surprisingly, didn't fly into a rage. Instead, her tone softened. Ethan, you've misunderstood. Julian helped me once, and I'm just trying to repay him. It's actually a coincidence. I was also in— Ah! Julian's shriek cut her off. We followed his pointed finger and saw my grandfather's grave on the hill. Amelia, why is there a grave here? That's so creepy. Julian hid behind Amelia, who patiently patted his back to calm him. This is the countryside. It's normal to have graves nearby, but it scares me. Who would bury a dead person so close to where living people are? It's such bad luck. He kept complaining, and I felt a hot surge of rage through me. Watch your mouth. Who's bad luck? You're the one meddling in someone else's marriage. You might be alive, but you're worse luck than any dead person. Julian hadn't expected me to confront him so directly. His mouth hung open as he looked pleadingly at Amelia. That set her off. She glared at me. Ethan, how could you talk to Julian like that? It's no wonder he said it. People around here have no class, burying their dead wherever they please. You really can't shake that poor person mentality. I couldn't hold back any longer. I raised my hand and slapped Amelia hard across the face. Amelia, shut your mouth. That grave, that's my grandfather's. She raised her hand to strike back, but froze when she heard who it was. Your grandfather is really dead? The pain in my chest was unbearable, and my eyes reddened again. Yes, he's dead. He died because there was no money to save him. Are you satisfied now? The person you find so unlucky was the only family I had left. Amelia, I'm poor, but didn't you start out that way too? Did you forget your roots so quickly? I pointed at Julian. He didn't want you when you were poor, but now that you're rich, he comes running back. And you think it's true love? You're pathetic. I must have hit a nerve. A vein throbbed on Amelia's temple. She pulled out the divorce papers and furiously signed her name. Divorce. I agree to your terms. I regret ever marrying you, you bitter, spiteful man. As she cursed at me, Julian smirked triumphantly behind her, as if laughing at my clownish behavior. But I didn't care anymore. All I wanted was the divorce. Holding the divorce certificate in my hand, I wasn't as sad as I thought I'd be. In fact, I felt liberated. Amelia handed me my debit card and told me the new PIN she'd set. I wish you and Julian a long and happy life together, I said, my voice empty. And may you be barren for all of it. With that blessing, I walked straight to the bank next door to reset the password. When I saw the balance of $20,000, a fresh wave of grief washed over me. This was the amount that would have saved my grandfather. But blaming Amelia was pointless. It was my own fault for getting into this mess. I found a teaching job in the local town. The requirements for teachers here weren't very high, so I soon had a job that could pay the bills and give me a sense of purpose. Some time passed. One day, I saw on my phone that Amelia and Julian were engaged. The social media comments were full of congratulations. Looking at the photo of them kissing, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. When Amelia and I got married, we took wedding photos, but she wouldn't let me post them on my social feed or announce our marriage to anyone. Her excuse was that the company was in the middle of its IPO, and she was afraid the news would affect it. At the time, I was so in love with her that I believed every word. Now the company was public, and she was free to marry her one true love. To the outside world, they were the perfect power couple. A modern fairy tale. No one knew that the husband she'd left behind had been cast aside, or that the so-called old flame was just the other man who'd won. After class one day, the town mayor found me. Mr. Miller, A big company is coming here to shoot a commercial and do some promotion for the area. Right here in your village. Because I had come from the city, most people here treated me like I was worldly and sophisticated. He wanted me to act as the host, since nobody here had ever dealt with something so big. I readily agreed. I never expected it would be Amelia's company, or that she and Julian would be the stars. They stood close together, and the villagers who passed by all stopped to stare, whispering praise. Is that the CEO's fiancé? He's so handsome. Look at that suit he's wearing. The material must be really expensive. And that watch on his wrist? Are those diamonds? I watched them with cold, detached eyes. Julian saw me first and walked over, his expensive leather shoes clicking on the dirt path. Ethan, long time no see. His condescending air made me sick, but with so many people watching, I couldn't just ignore him. Long time no see. He stepped closer and whispered in my ear. Amelia and I are getting married next month. I hope you can come to our wedding. He smiled brightly, then waved Amelia over. They stood side by side in front of me. Ethan, I'm sincerely inviting you, Julian said loudly. We would love to have your blessing most of all. Amelia looked at me with a complicated expression, but she didn't argue with him and extended an invitation as well. I'll have an invitation sent to you. I don't need one, I said. Seriously, Amelia, are you on something? You're bringing your homewrecker to invite your ex-husband to your wedding? Julian is not a homewrecker, she hissed, but her face flushed red. No? I showed her the photo her father had sent me months ago. This looks a little too cozy to be platonic, don't you think? And check the date. It was our wedding anniversary. Julian tried to snatch my phone, but I dodged him. He stumbled, nearly falling, and Amelia quickly steadied him. Ethan, that's going too far. How dare you push Julian in front of me? Now I was sure of it. Amelia wasn't just clueless. She was blind. I shrugged. Then you'd better get your little plaything out of here, or I might just keep bullying him. It's okay, Amelia. Ethan didn't mean it, Julian said, putting on a show of consoling her. Then he led her away to get ready for the day's shoot. Only then did I realize that the commercial the mayor had mentioned was actually their engagement photo shoot. And to my horror, I ended up playing the role of Julian's personal assistant. There were plenty of crew members, but he seemed to single me out on purpose, first asking me to adjust his suit, then to get him some water. I patiently did as he asked, wanting only to get away as fast as possible. I was afraid if I stayed a second longer, I'd lose control. Just then Julian shouted, drawing everyone's attention. My ring is gone! He frantically searched his pockets, and Amelia ordered everyone to help. But after looking for a long time, they found nothing. Paul pointed at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Amelia, it must have been Ethan. He took it. My eyes widened. I couldn't believe it. I didn't take it, I said, my voice steady. Amelia didn't seem to believe it either. Julian, look again carefully. Ethan wouldn't take your ring. Julian pouted. Amelia, you'd rather believe him than me? He was the only one near me. I took the ring off while I was getting my makeup done. If he didn't take it, who else could have? I said I didn't take it. Stop making baseless accusations. Amelia looked from Julian to me, frowning as if she couldn't make up her mind. Julian pressed his advantage. Then do you dare to let me look in your bag? Do you dare let me search you? I wasn't about to indulge his ridiculous demand, so I refused flat out. But the more I refused, the more pitiful he acted, going on and on about how important the ring was to him. Finally, Amelia walked over and tried to grab my bag. Julian has a point. You're such a gold digger. Maybe you did take the ring. Let me check. In your dreams! I clutched the bag tightly, but in her eyes, that was just proof of my guilt. If you didn't take it, why won't you let me look? Ethan, a leopard can't change its spots. I can't believe you'd stoop to stealing." The more she spoke, the more convinced she became. She started shoving me, trying to wrench the bag away. In the struggle, my bag fell, and its contents spilled onto the ground. Tissues, my house key, and glasses case, and the old comic book. Everything was out on the ground. But there was no ring. Julian still wasn't satisfied, and kept whispering in Amelia's ear. "Amelia, it's probably on him. I want to search him." He called her name several times, but she didn't respond. She was kneeling on the ground, staring at the comic book. I saw her hand was trembling slightly, and her breathing grew ragged. "Ethan, why is this book in your bag?" Julian tried to take it, but Amelia snatched it away. He could only take her arm and say softly, "Amelia, it's just a beat-up old book, who cares? Let's go take the photos." But this time, Amelia didn't listen to him. Instead, annoyed by his whining, she snapped, "Shut up!" Julian jumped, startled, and stood to the side, biting his lip. Amelia looked up at me, her eyes searching. "Tell me, how do you have this book?" Her name was written in it, so it was technically hers. I couldn't refuse to give it back. "My grandfather gave it to me. Since it's yours, you can have it. Don't say I didn't return it on purpose." "Impossible!" Her voice suddenly shot up, startling me. Before I could react, she grabbed my shoulders. "Where is your grandfather? I need to see him." Her question reopened a raw wound. I pushed her hands away. "Are you insane? I already told you my grandfather is dead. He's dead because you wouldn't give me the money for his treatment." Amelia staggered back a few steps. When she looked up again, her eyes were completely red. "Do you have a picture of him? A photo on his tombstone? Take me to see it." I had never seen her like this before. Without thinking, I led her to my grandfather's grave. Amelia leaned in close, staring intently at the small, faded photo on the headstone. She slowly closed her eyes, as if trying to recall something from a distant past. When she opened them again, they were bloodshot. "Ethan, is there a river to the south?" "There was," I said quietly. "But a kid drowned there once, and the water wasn't clean, so they filled it in later." Hearing my answer, Amelia seemed to deflate. She sank to the ground in front of the grave, grabbing her hair and letting out a tortured cry. "No, it's not possible. It can't be." She suddenly shot up and went to Julian, shaking him violently. "You said you were the one who saved me, didn't you? Then why does Ethan have this comic book?" Julian was stunned, stammering, unable to form a coherent sentence. "Amelia, I did save you. You remember, don't you? I was the one who was with you when you decided to turn your life around. You said I was your savior, didn't you?" Amelia froze. She looked at me, at the headstone, then back at Julian, shaking her head and muttering, "Wrong. It was all wrong." Suddenly, she crouched on the ground, buried her head in her hands, and began to sob uncontrollably, as if releasing years of pent-up emotion. "Ethan, I had the wrong person." She looked at me, her eyes filled with an agony I'd never seen before. My mind was so fuzzy back then. I only vaguely remember what your grandfather looked like, and a blurry figure of a little boy skipping around. Her words jogged a memory from long ago. 10 years earlier, my grandfather had taken me into town to collect scraps. On our way back, we saw a little girl struggling in the river with an unconscious woman beside her. My grandfather pulled them out and performed first aid. The woman quickly came to. After they were out of danger, I ran home to get them some food and blankets. So when Amelia woke up, she only saw my grandfather, and the skipping boy was me. They had left in a hurry, grabbing a backpack from the riverbank. The comic book must have fallen out. It was just a small incident, but I never would have imagined that the people my grandfather saved that day were Amelia and her mother. Her father's medical bills had bankrupted the family, but he died anyway. With no money left, her mother had decided to end her life, bringing Amelia to this remote village to drown themselves. She thought no one would ever find them. But my grandfather happened to be there. Paul, who also lived in their wealthy neighborhood, appeared in her life shortly after, and in her grief and confusion, she naturally assumed he was her savior. A strange sense of irony washed over me, followed by a wave of endless bitterness. "I'm so sorry, Ethan," she cried. "I'm so sorry to you and to your grandfather. I didn't know. My mother never told me what happened. I never knew who really saved me." She kept apologizing, confessing her guilt. "It's too late, Amelia," I said, my voice hollow. "My grandfather is already dead. I begged you for the money to save him, but you didn't believe me." "No!" She pounded her fists against her head. "I thought you were lying to me." "I didn't know it was him who saved me." "Of course you didn't know," I said, the grief in my heart turning numb. "Because in all the time we were together, you never once came home with me. You never even met my grandfather. Amelia, deep down, you always looked down on me. And you never loved me." "No, Ethan, don't say that. I just had the wrong person." She stood up and pointed fiercely at Julian. "It was him! He's the one who lied to me." Julian backed away. "You're the one who assumed. I just went along with it. I never explicitly said it was me. It was all your own wishful thinking." Now I understood. Paul knew he wasn't her savior, but he had happily accepted all the perks that came with the title. Amelia's hand struck his face with a loud crack. "How could you be so vicious? If you didn't save me, why didn't you tell me? I was so poor back then, I truly thought you were my salvation. I treated you like a hero. This was all your doing. You told me Ethan was bullying you, that he was after my money, that he was lying to me. It was all you." Faced with her accusations, Paul didn't seem to think he'd done anything wrong. "You believed everything I said. How is that my fault? You have no judgment of your own. You did whatever I said, and now you're blaming me? Amelia, you're the one with the inferiority complex. Do you even love me? You just wanted to conquer me, to show off your money and status. You're no saint either." Watching them tear each other apart, I could only laugh. This was the man Amelia had obsessed over for years. This was the simple, kind man she always talked about. After they left, I had a few days of peace. The whole affair made me realize something. Poverty itself isn't the issue, but it can make sensitive children feel deeply insecure. In this poor village, what was needed most was education. I traveled around, lobbying the local government and the education board to pay more attention to rural education. When the first round of funding came through, the children got new desks, a playground, and the same standard textbooks as the kids in the city. After hearing about the project, kind-hearted people from all over started to donate. The foundation for a new school was laid. When it was completed, I would be its principal, leading the children of this village toward a brighter future. One night, a story hit the headlines. Vance Group CEO murders fiancé. After their trip, Julian had secretly transferred a huge amount of Amelia's assets, nearly bankrupting her company. Amelia had been planning to break up with him, but when she discovered the theft, they got into a violent fight, and she killed him. Late that night, someone knocked on my door. It was Amelia. "Ethan, I killed someone." Her voice was excited, with no trace of fear. I killed that bastard Julian. From now on, you'll be my only husband. I promise I'll only love you. The police must be looking for me now. Run away with me. I know you still love me. We can run away to a place where no one knows us and start over, okay?" To keep her calm, I pretended to agree. I went into my room to pack and called the police. When they broke down the door, Amelia was still in a daze. "Ethan? Why did you call the police? I love you. Don't you want to run away with me? I may not have any money left, but I have my love for you. Don't you love me anymore?" I looked at her, at the woman who had caused me so much pain, and I felt nothing but a quiet finality. I nodded. "That's right. I don't love you anymore." "What did you say?" she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't love you anymore, Amelia. You made a mistake, and you have to face the consequences. You used to be more than good enough for me, but now you're not good enough for me." The police led her away as she screamed that she loved me, her voice echoing in the quiet night. But I didn't need it anymore.